everybody starts to concern themselves with their own lives. Making money, making a living, the politics around your own local scene, your own personal ambitions.
Yeah.
So sometimes the bigger mission and vision sort of gets lost in the sauce.
Yeah.
And I definitely am guilty because I feel like I've been one of those people who's been in a position to kind of champion that a bit more. So I definitely am happy that I've kind of found my way back to sort of being like an African hip-hop connector.
Yeah.
You know, because I think that's what happens. The fragmentation is not, I don't think it's intentional on anybody's part.
Of course.
But it does happen that life gets in the way.
Yeah.
And the business of music gets in the way. So people are concerned with what is feeding them or buying them their next home or new car. So as much as they want to do other things, unless it's in front of their faces.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Sabelom Kabela, and this is Real. Recognize Real. I'm here with M.Anifest. How you doing, brother?
I'm good, brother. Good to see you again.
Yeah. Last time I saw you, you were shooting a video with MiCasa.
Yeah.
That's how crazy it is.
Yeah, I know. It's been a while.
That's how crazy you've gone with the collaboration.
That's true. That's
There's
true.
MiCasa, A-Reece, Double HP.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So I think the first question is, what draws you to South Africa?
I think since childhood, I kind of reflected and realized I loved a lot of South African music since childhood. You know, from the greats to the random songs I used to play in the neighborhood. Nkomoti, you know, from that to like the
Oh shit, that's some old school.
I know. So by the time I was being an adult and then seeing how like the scene here has developed, whether it was, I remember being in college and what the African students, what we used to all bump to and go crazy to in our parties was some TKZ joint. And that joint was so Shibobo, exactly. And then obviously then the hip hop scene, then you know, Black Coffee. Like I mean, like so much South African music has always been dope to me. So it's kind of no wonder that as a creator, I've found, I guess, either kindred spirits or just people who that feel like we can make dope things together.
Yeah. You know, I'm curious about your backstory with SA, you know, like because I know Burna Boy has like a crazy backstory where apparently he was coming here, was trying to record, and it wasn't as smooth, bro. Like there was actually like a time this engineer was like, nah, bro, I want to record MI, bro. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And he was like mad. So how was it for you when you first started coming here?
Yeah, no, I had better luck than Burna, even though I'm sure his luck is just fine right now.
Of course, yeah.
But no, you see, I actually have family here, you know, like either family or family friends here. So when I first came, that was kind of a point of connection. My cousin Mandla is half Ghanaian, half South African, so that was a good sort of connection. You know.
So it wasn't like completely foreign land.
No, it wasn't. It was foreign only in terms of not having been here.
Yeah.
But I had, you know, people that I knew well. So that was for me a good thing. And I think I'd advise anybody that when you're going somewhere, it's always good to like touch base with, like, even if you know somebody who can introduce you to somebody that they're very tight with.
Exactly.
So that familiarity extended to, I think, a lady called Chloe, and she had a boyfriend that was like a gym person that was Double HP's private, what's it called, personal trainer. So you see,
was that how Jigga ended up happening?
Yeah, so she had, I was coming, I was like, yo, my boyfriend trains Double HP. You guys should meet. So met Jabba, and the first thing Jabba did was like on a friendly tip, asked me, do you need to go to a barber, and showed me where his barber was.
Yeah.
Was nothing about studio, etc. So I think I managed to kind of enter through some kind of familiar ways that kind of in which you build genuine friendships. So
and you came in from the top, right? Double HP.
I know, right? It's mad. And then I had a friend, another friend, Fiona, who, oh wow, Fiona is
from Spotify.
Yeah. I knew Fiona before that time. So who also introduced me to Joby at the time, who was managing Proverb. So linked up with Joby, and Joby gave my CD to Proverb. Proverb was like listening on his way to work and like loved it so much he called like, yo, can we do a studio session? So it was like kind of those kind of relationships. So there were organic things built. Obviously the music was the shared interest,
Of course,
but nothing beats sort of kind of a favorable introduction, which with no expectation.
Exactly, yeah. And then how do you get to MiCasa? I hear the rappers, you're a rapper, but MiCasa, I mean, even Nom Samazwai, I get the soul, but MiCasa was like, that was unexpected.
Yeah, no, I think once those first couple of collabs happened, particularly Proverb and Jabba, I think, and then I started coming here, did the Channel Awards, Big Brother Africa, a couple of things. I definitely think it was just easier to move around because people knew what I was bringing. So it was like, randomly would meet people or people would introduce other people to me. And I think with MiCasa, they had somebody from their management might have reached out to me like, yo, let's link, what's up? You know, so it was just like one of those things that was a possibility that once I started recording something that made sense, I was like, yo, I hit up Jay something, and then we made it happen.
And you were shooting the video out there in Yeovil.
It
was crazy.
It was
you were talking about chaos versus peace. Was that chaotic in Ghanaian standards?
Yeah. It was beautiful chaos because the song is beautiful, right? It's almost like a wedding song. So but you know, there's sometimes you need to juxtapose it with some of the chaos of the streets. If you want to leave the streets on a wedding type song, you have to go to the streets.
And it was a crazy day because I remember even Dr. Duda, he was like, yo, bruh, this is getting a little weird. As an artist, you're also not safe because people are like, you have all the money and everything else.
Exactly.
But it was really dope, man. And then obviously now you have, you know, your 3-peat with Reece. Like, how did you even get here, man? Like,
man, it was
Hennessy.
Yep, you're right. I think a chance link up in Lagos for the Hennessy Cypher. And once again, you know, I think if you put talented artists in a situation where it's not just about work, but you can have time to share a meal, go out to an event, you know, you can get to connect. And that's what happened with Reece and I. And, you know, Vector was there, Maya was there. Yeah, I remember we went to a battle rap event and we all had the time of our lives.
Oh, shit.
So it's just kind of there. We bonded well, you know, spit some raps and then kept in contact and then did some more raps. And it's been an iconic 3-peat, if I might say.
Bro, like crazy. So like, was there ever like one of those joints that you recorded in one studio, like out of the 3?
Say that again.
Was there ever like, I mean, any out of the 3 songs, were you ever like in studio together?
No, we didn't have to be.
Oh,
that's what's crazy.
Yeah,
because I think it just sort of our link up is like proper. So it's like so when I feel like when you connect with somebody well, then how you make the music, it really depends on what's convenient for you guys.
But other than that,
it's just because you have an understanding.
Yeah.
Usually the studio is to try and develop alignments. But if you have alignments already, then it's like, yo, let's just make this happen which way. You know what I mean? So and you know, and we had met again in New York. We did like some ads there in New York for Hennessy. Wow, this is some free promo out here. Maybe not free.
And so you with Mass Appeal now. That's damn. How did that even happen? Like
just I think when I was about done with the album, or at least when I thought I was done with the album, I mean, I was letting a couple of people hear it who are in the business, and somebody kind of made the play to make that introduction because they were looking to expand. They've expanded in Asia and other places, and I think they were looking to expand, and I was looking for a home. It felt like when the idea was first presented, it's just like, wow, this makes so much sense. Why was this not thought of 10 years before? That's what I think is dope. Whenever anybody hears, they're like partly excited because like, okay, this makes sense.
Exactly. I mean, even I think everybody like the Nas connection. But you were like, you were studying in the States when you started putting out like music,
Yeah.
and this is almost like a full circle moment.
It is a full circle moment because somehow I think if I ever remained in the States, that would never have happened because I would have been like, I don't know. I feel like my identity wouldn't be shining so brightly.
Because you'd be in a foreign place.
Well, not just because you're in a foreign place, because you tend to be, obviously, as an artist, influenced by your environment.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So if your primary audience that you're creating to is there, somehow subconsciously or consciously, it will affect how you create and what your trajectory look like. I don't think I would have been. I think I would have been good, maybe great if I was lucky.
Yeah.
But I don't think I would have been as creative and being able to draw from the source, which is home.
Exactly.
The way I've been able to live in on the continent.
But also, I just feel like the ears were not so receptive for African music at that time, at this level. You know what I mean?
Definitely. But I'll tell you one thing though. When I was there, somehow I didn't think it was going to happen the way it did. But I had this sort of foolish confidence that it could happen. It was not completely foolish because history has shown that, there have been different moments where there've been African presence. There's a Ghanaian band, Usibi, that in the 70s was charting in like 30 plus countries in the world.
Yeah.
Hugh Masekela, Miriam Makeba made incredible strides. This has happened.
Yeah.
Not in the way it's happening now.
Of course.
So as a child of history, I think somehow I believe that there was going to be a moment in the sun for modern African music. I just didn't know that it was going to happen the way
it did. Yeah. And as quickly as it did,
it felt quick. But I don't think it feels quick for everybody who's been involved in it for a long time. I can imagine there are some 50-year-olds who've been tilling the soil for like 30 years.
Exactly.
Who are like, you guys are lucky.
Yeah. And, speaking of just the collaborations that you do, I was talking to a friend of mine like last night, who actually talking about your album. And I was like, I find it, and not disrespect to Hennessy, of course, it's great what they did. I was like, that it took Hennessy for M.Anifest and A-Reece to connect. And I was like, in the mid 2010s, you niggas are doing this shit on your own. It was like really, but then it's just like, it's sort of like died down really. I mean, when I was thinking back then, I was like, 10 years from now, there'll be like an African hip hop scene that's like, you know what I mean? But it's still very fragmented. What can you say about that?
Oh man, I mean, that question is an answer in itself.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it is fragmented because everybody starts to concern themselves with their own lives. Making money, making a living, the politics around your own local scene, your own personal ambitions.
Yeah.
So sometimes the bigger mission and vision sort of gets lost in the source.
Yeah.
And I definitely am guilty because I feel like I've been one of those people who's been in a position to kind of champion that a bit more. So I definitely am happy that I've kind of found my way back to sort of being like an African hip hop connector.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what happens. The fragmentation is not, I don't think it's intentional on anybody's part.
Of course.
But it does happen that life gets in the way.
Yeah.
And the business of music gets in the way. So people are concerned with what is feeding them or buying them their next home on Yuka. So as much as they want to do other things, unless it's in front of their faces,
it's not as easy as it looks to us fans.
It is not as simple. It is easy when you think about it. You can jump on a plane very quickly.
Of course.
You can hop on a phone call. You can even send a DM.
Yeah.
So technically it is, but life, it's not always as simple because there's a lot going on. But it can be. And I think we can show different ways. And I think with this three-peat, it's kind of showed that kind of thing can happen in a beautiful way. It's like, yo, you're right. We should have been done that.
Yeah.
But maybe it's supposed to happen now. So maybe the next time I see Latin over Pounds and Kwesi Arthur from Ghana, either more of those kind of things. Yeah. They have happened, but in kind of, like you said, fragmented spaces.
Yeah. I really think the mid 2010s was that moment where it was like, shit, these niggas are really doing this thing.
It was a madness. Yeah. So I think let's see if there's a renaissance of sorts about to happen.
I hope.
Because the reason why it can and it should happen is just like in America, I think we're also going through the phase where like different generations are all active. So that creates more possibilities.
Yeah.
You know, I was walking down some office the other day and I saw like KO. I've been to South Africa so many times, I've never seen him. And I'm just like, yo, he's still making music, actively making dope stuff.
Yeah.
And then now there's other people I'm just so now you have like 3-4 generations.
And you've collaborated with all those niggas.
Yeah,
That's
so
crazy.
exactly.
Man.
So I think it probably might happen more. And especially too, I think when you have more people who are also like versatile. So it doesn't matter what the banner of the music is. So even though they're hip hoppers, just like I could work with the MiCasa, somebody else can work with, you know, somebody else from outside.
Yeah, yeah. So. And speaking of that, that's what for me like defines the album, especially sonically. It's like very eclectic, you know, for the lack of a less cliche word. It's like really, you know, I'm like bobbing my head, but then some stuff is like really vibey, you know. How do you come up with the music in albums? It's always very interesting.
Yeah, I think for me that's probably maybe the most exciting. You know, for me in terms of really finding like the sonic landscape and just like what can we do that's really cool and crazy and some dope shit.
Yeah.
You know, and it comes with a lot of intention and also just making really great choices. So my really great choice on this album is like, yo, I hit up my guy Budo, the producer, just like who's, you know, was in Seattle and LA, and is like somebody I worked with on my earlier stuff, but we hadn't worked in a while, but it has also gone through a beautiful journey, creating with a multitude of people, and is versatile enough. So that decision to make that call and lock in with him, say, yo, let's make a record, was a great decision because that's somebody who I'm in sync with and who could also bring something else perspective wise to music that he's not like inside of.
Yeah.
So even if I'm bringing another producer's beat or work, he and I could like take things apart, rebuild them,
retouch, and
and so it's beautiful. So it's like we're in sync in terms of from when I first spoke to him. So I think that's how it comes about. So there's a cohesion, even though there's a cohesion you hear, but there's an experimentation and trying to figure out what new hybridization can be done with this. What is this?
Yeah.
How can we keep it groovy? But not lose the essence of you, which is like, right, yeah, hip hop artist, you're a lyricist, you like telling stories, but you also love music.
Yeah.
You know, so how can all these things exist without compromise?
And, you know, for me, it's always like in an African context, as a hip hop artist, you know, you always sort of like competing or going against dance music, you know. Like in South Africa right now, it's like piano, you know, there was a time it was Gqom house and I always say that when it comes to hip hop, for me, it boils down to South Africa and Ghana. And I'm not saying this because you're sitting next to me. It's like you can call my Twitter. There's probably something I've written that says.
I think if you search my Twitter, I've probably said it explicitly like 3 or 4 times already.
It's crazy, right? Yeah. It's like Ghana has this crazy hip hop scene, but how would you say it relates to the dance music? It can get tricky here. Eh?
Yeah, it's always been a tricky thing. But here's how I see it. Okay, at least from my point of view. We have the good fortune as African hip hoppers to have comfortably grown up with other music that we know very well and we also probably love very well, right? As much, even though we're hip hoppers.
Yeah.
So the idea of sometimes borrowing or merging with them, it's not such a foreign thing. Where it gets tricky is people feeling like that's what they have to do. Right? So a person like me is curious about it and wants to do it because I might hear some old Ibo Taylor record from the 60s and I want to, you know, because I am more, just as I listen to the Black Thoughts and the Nas's and the whatever, I'm probably listen the most to the more artistic hip hop people like an Outkast. I loved the Fugees, right? I loved the people who made music that also drew from wherever they were. I remember liking like all that Snoop and Dre stuff because they were drawing from P-Funk.
Of course, yeah.
So I also come from, I guess, loving that side of hip hop that as much as I love the lyricism, they also always brought whatever music they fancy into it. So for me, it's not like a stretch the stretches where people are forcing it and feeling like, yo, piano is popping, so I need to do this.
I have to do piano. Yeah.
Nah, I disagree with that. I think if anything, sometimes the doors that music that is your neighbor or adjacent to you break enables you to go in. Like, so now now you can go and say I'm from South Africa and people are like, oh, the place of I'm a piano.
Yeah, exactly.
But you can be like, yeah, but I do something a bit different. But we find it difficult because of also the people in the business really just have a very cut and dry way of looking at things. So it's like, I remember being in LA, being in a studio session and a producer was listening to the stuff. So he's like, oh, so you're like a rapper who raps on Afrobeats. It's like, yo, nobody says music from Atlanta is like, oh, so you're like rappers who rap over, I don't know. Like, you understand? It's
crunk,
like,
trap.
Yeah. So it's like where I'm from and the influence of where I'm from is being in my music doesn't stop it from being whatever. But also, look, another thing is not to make the answer too lengthy.
Yeah,
is that I do think we're way past the point where the idea of being an MC or hip hop artist should be small. I think we are way past that point. It was always, I think hip hop has always been more vast than people give it credit for. The idea of sampling is it's going across different things and taking from everywhere.
Stuff Timbaland was doing. What was even getting
what are we
those
talking about? Indians, like you understand? So the idea of limiting it and making it small is probably it's probably an idea I don't know who cooked up. Because if we really look at it, whether it's the beginnings where they were taking disco records, it's never been limited.
Yeah.
So I think the problem, like I said, just to reiterate one more time, is when hip hop artists feel compelled.
They have to.
Yes.
You have to jump.
Instead of feeling inspired and feeling like, yo, I might have a hack. You know that thing that this guy did in this house song? You know, like that's why I, for instance, love Questa's his first huge song. So it feels like a slowed down version of what was going on.
Good, yeah.
You understand? Good. So it's like, yo, you can tell that, yo, this is inspired by certain other elements of South African music, and then maybe a kind of throwback Kwaito-ish.
Yeah.
But then like, so that I like things like that because it's like, yo, that's innovative. You've taken something that's familiar, probably be inspired by something that's already happened there and cracked the code.
And did it in your own way.
Yeah.
I'm good this generation.
And you didn't have to do 200 of those, you know. Maybe he did 2 of them.
He did 3 of them. I was like, shit.
But he did so much.
And all 3 of them really went down. Yeah, it's crazy. I saw him perform just last weekend and yeah, I was like, it's crazy because it was like, oh shit, he's finishing now, and then it's like, oh yeah, he has to perform. You won't know if it's in God or spirit or he's that guy, like for real. But yeah, the album title, I mean, I even forgot. I know there's guavas somewhere.
Yeah, New Road and Guava Trees. Yeah.
New Road and Guava Trees. Yeah, what's that about? It's a mouthful.
Yeah, it is a mouthful. I mean, I like my titles like novels.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the literal thing was really just me trying to take a new road and make a fruitful climb.
Oh,
okay. But it was more triggered by kind of more of a personal memory because I grew up in Medina New Road. And I was very fond of a guava tree in my house I was notorious for climbing. And
you fell a few times, huh?
Oh, sure, but man, the fruits were too good to not fall for them. Yeah. I fell for the tree.
I know. I feel like every African kid was stealing guavas at some point from. Yeah. So it was in your house, this tree?
Yeah, it was. So I mean, the truth is like I don't. In this particular instance, the title of the album didn't come at the beginning, but the title came because it fits the intention of the album.
Yeah.
Just me trying to take a new path, like, what does elevating to a new path look like? Global leaning or facing, and just kind of using my skill set to really like crack new codes, right? And amaze myself first and foremost.
Of course.
So then by the time that the title came, it just fitted because that's what I did with the record, both in terms of style and substance.
Yeah. And then, international affiliation with the label, mass appeal. What does that mean? What are you looking at doing? And I'm asking this because we saw Nasty C, he admitted it was like shit that the States thing didn't work out for him, and then he's like trying to maybe like be just more of a presence on the continent and maybe even like the UK. And I saw that. I was like, he was dropping bomb after bomb. I was like, how do niggas sleep on that? But so I was just curious. I was like, what does it look like for an African rapper really making it in, let's say, the States, where hip hop comes from?
I think first and foremost, you have to you can't be parochial about just an American situation. The world is a very big place.
Exactly.
And America also tends to favor things that are blowing up wherever they are.
Wherever they are, yeah.
Or in other places.
They don't see anyone
so
else.
Jimi
Yeah.
Hendrix blew up in London before the US. People forget that. Even though he's from the US. So all that to say, in my situation, look, being with a label that's number one, like rooted in hip hop, and I say rooted in hip hop. Let's not play around. We're not talking about anything but rooted in hip hop for real.
It doesn't get more hip hop than that.
The track record is clear, so there is an intrinsic understanding of the thing. And then number two, I'm also not spring chicken. So what that means is that I'm not out here to be shepherded.
Of course.
It's like let's bring our powers combined. You have gravitas, I have my gravitas. You have knowledge, I have mine. You have resources, I put in my resources. So let's figure out how, as a combination, things can be whatever. Because you understand. So I feel like feels more like a joint exploration.
Exactly. It's a partnership.
I mean, just let's call it a joint exploration in the sense of the fact that we know it's uncharted territory. So it's not a simple thing as, oh, we're going to make you big in America. Oh, Europe. It's just like, yo, we think we can do dope big things in a global scale.
Yeah.
So why not go for it? So that's what. So I think it's about like literally we're creating the blueprint as it's happening
in real time.
Yeah, in real time, which is I think beautiful. So that's what it looks like for an African rapper in 2025 and beyond.
And then you were part of the like the whole. You even dropped the 50 years freestyle, really dope. And I think for me that 2 years ago. Or was it?
Yeah,
it was 2 years ago.
Wow,
Shit.
Time is gone.
I know it's 52 now, bro.
Yeah.
And really, I think that gave everybody like a sort of like a moment to reflect. In SA, we're like thinking, and it's almost like everybody had to like have a date or at least a year to be like, oh shit, hip hop started here in this year. I don't remember the year that we decided on in South Africa, based on the South African Hip Hop Museum. But it wasn't like really far from when it started in the States. But when would you say it started in Ghana?
Oh man, as somebody who really loves history, I'm kind of disappointed in myself that I can't from the top of my head say
Think of
when,
it, yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah.
I know that there were people who were doing things with rapping in the 80s. Well, technically, there's actually somebody from Ghana who some say invented rapping because there's stuff in the 60s that sounds like rap that he was doing.
Shit, who's that?
Jedouble Ambule. So
oh
you should
shit,
go and check that out. He has
Google that.
Jedouble Ambule, yeah. So that's kind of another thing. So, but some of these things, nothing's new under the sun.
Yeah, of course. You never really know.
Yeah. So so it's tough to say, but I would say for sure that the movement of hip hop in Ghana began in the 90s. It's when we had hip life, when it was indigenized, it was named, and there was like a whole cadre of like artists that just started blossoming and coming through. It definitely would be the 90s.
And this was after the high life stuff? Because hip life was like hip hop.
Yeah. So high life was the music of our parents and grandparents. So hip life was the first time that was our music Just the same way hip hop was the music of the young people of the day.
Yeah.
So high life and hip hop smashed together.
Hip life.
So yeah, that's where hip life was definitely a '90s movement. And that's when it just felt like hip hop was. So before that, hip hop is like, yeah, people are listening to it, but it's fragmented. Yeah, there were a couple of spaces that, yeah, there was Children's Park, the National Theater, that there would be events. Remember there was an event called Recognize. After that, what's the name of the group? Smith and Wesson became Cocoa Brothers. They were part of Boot Camp.
Yeah.
So the whole show was named after one of their songs. So there were things like that, but I think until it got named and the movement of hip life happened, the hip hop scene was just individuals listening to hip hop.
That's what it was. Yeah.
So the '90s for sure, I think. So I don't have a year. I'll check for you, my brother. But as of now, I can see
let's say the
definitely
90s.
the '90s.
Yeah, because I think in SA, man, really early 80s, I think. Is it 82, 83? Something like that.
Early.
You know, with
as a scene or the first couple of rappers?
I would say really the first guys, man. I'm not even sure if it was a scene, but it was just like a group of guys doing whatever they were doing. Ready D, Emil YX, Black Noise, those guys. You know what I mean? I'm not sure how popping it was as a scene, but I'm actually, it's really dope that those guys are still around. Man.
That's dope.
Like it's crazy.
That's excellent. So did they do anything for the 50th of those guys?
Yeah.
They got some bread.
Yeah, because we wanted to have Ready D on some a round table thing, but that didn't work out. But the really he did pull up to the event and played a set, and it was amazing. It was a dope celebration. I'm seeing a publicist is outside. I'm assuming we're running out of time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's sad.
It is sad, right? But thank you so much for pulling through.
Thank you. That means we need a part 2 sooner than later.
100%.
Hopefully this year, because now I've recommenced my frequent visitation.
Oh, to SA.
This is official. I'm saying this. My commitment.
Looking forward to those collaborations, man. That's me. But any last words about people should go check out the album?
Yeah, man. Check out New Road and Guava Trees, man. I have supreme confidence in it. I'm not even gonna lie. So far, it's been well received. But just check out 38 minutes, 33 seconds of greatness, and thanks for your support. And like my brother said, we're about to reignite that whole cross-country Pan-African hip-hop scene. So I'm here for it. I'm going to play my part.
Peace.
Peace.
Broadcast live